A thanks to Nintendo for the review copy. Hi guys, welcome back to Switch Up. Well, it is that time, isn't it? It's our full review of the GTA Remastered Definitive Edition Greatest of All Time Bells and Whistles trilogy on the Nintendo Switch. A big thanks to our writer Asdin. He has ploughed his way through these games and we've worked together to bring you this full review. GTA 3 was the sequel to the classic top-down PC crime game and one of the first open-world ones that set the standard for the industry. The franchise mixed all the classic mafia movies with a touch of satire and had you rising through the ranks of the criminal underworld in a huge open sandbox world full of skyscrapers, bystanders, and vehicles you could drive, steal, and explode. If you've managed to miss some of the controversy surrounding this release, just be assured we're going to review this as we review everything else, as fairly as we possibly can based on what's available in front of us. Now that being said, what we want to find out is if this is the godfather of all trilogies, or will it end up sleeping with the fishes? Well, let's find out. GTA 3 then has the small-time silent criminal named Claude being double-crossed and left for dead after a heist by his girlfriend Catalina. Luckily, during the transfer to the prison, the van gets ambushed and he escapes alongside a fellow convict. From here on, Claude will carry out odd jobs as the mafia's errand boy, and the story sees him working with some of Liberty City's biggest and worst crime syndicates, hoping to get to his ex-girlfriend and administer some revenge. Vice City takes place during 1986 in a Miami-influenced island. Tommy Vercetti is released from prison after serving a 15-year sentence for murder. His boss, seeking to establish drug operations in the South, sends Tommy to Vice City to oversee an important drug deal alongside crooked lawyer Ken Rosenberg. However, the deal is ambushed by unknown assailants, with Tommy and Ken barely escaping, and angered upon hearing the news, their boss orders Tommy to recover the drugs alongside the money he gave him under threat of consequences. And as with most GTAs, it's a rags to riches tale. Lastly, San Andreas takes place in a fictional California-inspired island during 1992. The protagonist is CJ, who returns home for his mother's funeral after she's caught up in a drive-by shooting. Upon arrival, he is intercepted by CRASH, Crash, who threatened to frame him for the recent murder of a police officer unless he cooperates with them. CJ then reunites with his gang and learns that the Grove Street families have lost most of their influence and territories to their main rivals, the Ballers. CJ agrees to stay in Los Santos until the gang's problems are resolved and works closely with his brothers and friends to restore the family's strength. Gameplay-wise, all the games in this trilogy are open-world, third-person action sandbox titles, where you can carry out story and side missions in a non-linear fashion. Although completing story missions opens up the game and some of the weapons, areas and activities, you can spend all of your time doing pretty much anything. There are also hidden packages to find and serve as treasure hunting tasks, not dissimilar to other open-world games. Now, there really are a lot of side activities and jobs to carry out to change the pace of the game slightly. Upon acquiring a taxi in GTA 3, a police car or an ambulance for example, you'll be able to carry out specific missions and earn cash and other rewards. I personally loved carrying out the vigilante missions in these games when driving in a police vehicle, as you chased after criminals and dispatched them, earning your cash and in-game perks, such as bribe icons spawning near your safe house, which reduced your wanted level. There are also rampage missions that serve as mini-games where you have to destroy or kill a number of opposing gang members within a limited amount of time with a specific weapon. Speaking of which, you couldn't have a crime game without law enforcement trying to stop you. One of the most notorious aspects of the GTA franchise is how committing small crimes in front of a cop can quickly escalate to a 4-minute car chase from the FBI and even the army. The more chaos you cause, the more the wanted level increases, making it harder to escape from the law and ultimately your demise. You can, however, find the bribe tokens to decrease this. An overarching goal of all three titles is to amass as much cash as possible in order to buy weapons from firearm dealers, which in turn prepare you for the harder missions. As stated before, there are a number of different ways to earn money in the game, but carrying out the story or side quests seems to be the best way to earn big bucks. There are loads of different weapons, and they fall within the melee, ranged, or explosive categories. Some ranged weapons, such as the sniper rifle, allow for the perspective to change to first person, and others, such as the micro Uzi, allow you to carry out your very own drive-by shootings. And doing so on the Switch with the gyroscopic controls is reasonable reasonably okay. As far as the series' extracurricular activities go, GTA 3 was great when it first came out, due to the fact that it was a 3D open world where you could do virtually anything, although in comparison to the latter games in the trilogy, you will feel that it's quite dated, both in terms of the content and also the mechanics. One example of this is the amount of money you earn and only being able to spend it to buy weapons. As you'll know, in the latter games that followed, the protagonist not only had many different ways to earn money, but could also spend it purchasing properties, gambling, upgrading vehicles, etc. Now, Vice City sought to improve an already great formula by including motorbikes and mopeds, helicopters, speedboats, as well as the aforementioned epic 80s soundtracks. Tommy Vercetti is similar to Claude from the previous game in terms of his character and story progression, with climbing up that crime food chain. The difference being that Tommy is fully voice acted and has a personality, making the gameplay somewhat more enjoyable in return. As also stated before, the incentives to make money are much greater in this game, as it allows for the players to purchase a variety of businesses, including a taxi company and several entertainment clubs. Each commercial property has a number of missions attached to it, such as eliminating competition or stealing equipment. Once all the missions are complete, the property begins to generate an ongoing income available to the player. This gives the player a greater sense of achievement as you build your empire. This also helps to incentivize obtaining and expanding the businesses as they add more playtime via the side missions. I mentioned at the start the RPG elements that were added with San Andreas. CJ can be customized using different clothes, tattoos, and hairstyles. These have more of an effect on non-player characters' reactions, as in this game CJ can date a few girls and also show off his gang colors, which increase the level of respect among his fellow recruits. He can also work out at a gym and literally change his physique, or eat cake, and well, we all know how that goes. There are arcades you can play, there's a pool table to play on. The sim-style aspects added a layer of depth that lots of players really enjoyed. The remastered trilogy sees an update to its controls. I mentioned the gyroscopic aiming, but also the touch screen support is a nice addition, allowing you to navigate through menus. So that's the gameplay. We're all good, right? Happy days. 20 out of 20, job done. Well, no. Not on this version. So far, I've experienced the game crashing a number of times. I've also experienced invisible walls that affect my gameplay, and in one mission, I thought my Switch was having a fit when an exploding building caused the frame rate to nosedive to the single digits. It certainly makes it a little bit tough to swallow this as the definitive edition, knowing that those originals run so much better. But in a game that requires you to speed down busy roads to evade the police, it makes it twice as hard when assets and cars materialize in front of you. I had to retry missions because of this problem. The intermittent frame drops during these sequences also made it feel like there was an input delay. Weather effects that are supposed to make the experience look better will actually block you from being able to complete some of the races, as you simply won't be able to see where you're going. I understand that these games were never perfect, but this remaster doesn't feel like a polished product at all. It's still GTA, and you can still enjoy the experience that's here, and in fairness, there are a couple of nice quality of life improvements. It's clear to me though that these were rushed out of the door and lack the rockstar quality we are accustomed to with some of their other titles. I need to stress that it is enjoyable, but marred with technical issues and problems that should have been fixed prior to release, and they massively affect the overall gameplay score. Gameplay scores 12 out of 20. One of the biggest improvements in all three of the games are the updated controls that play much more like Grand Theft Auto 5, with the weapon and radial menus. Throw in the touch screen and the gyro aiming and all should be well. There's also the new lock-on system, and the physics have seen an improvement, although they're currently bugged out in many instances, with bodywork on cars disappearing and appearing on other sides of vehicles, and a host of other problems. The real control problems come from the performance issues, and it can certainly hamper your enjoyment there. Controls score 14 out of 20. One of the most divisive aspects of the games are the updated visuals. Many people felt the originals actually looked better in some instances. A recent video comparing Vice City, which was available on the PSP, and Vice City that we have here, had many saying that actually, yeah, we prefer the old game. With that in mind though, they have added in quite a few new effects, and in many ways this is on a completely updated engine. It runs on the Unreal Engine 4, I believe, and this may be where a lot of the issues arise. Unreal 4 on Switch, not so much. Where we've had great performances where developers have used proprietary engines. Just take a look at the RE engine over from Capcom. Here, to squeeze out just enough performance, they've massively reduced the image quality. It uses dynamic resolution scaling, which can leave everything looking very blurry, and there are some strange things removed which would actually help performance, such as long distance fog. Perplexingly, GTA 3 seems to suffer the worst of all three titles, with Vice City being somewhere in the middle and San Andreas running probably the best of all three. At certain times, Vice City's new lighting effects do look really nice, particularly if you're playing on an OLED Switch. You can toggle bloom on and off, with off making the frame rate slightly better, but as far as menus and heads-up displays go, it all looks okay. The rain effect seems entirely broken, with it blocking your vision and even raining under bridges. Oh dear. Look, visuals are a mixed bag, and that's putting it nicely. I felt like I was playing two versions of the same game simultaneously, one in which it looks and runs okay, and another which could be described as a visual abomination where characters are deformed and the world becomes a bad acid trip. The amount of inconsistencies from a visual and performance standpoint really have let the game down. I personally didn't mind the aesthetics or character models as much as some seem to, but when the frame rate affects the gameplay, visual narration and the immersive experience, it's really hard to play devil's advocate. It really isn't all bad. They should have just fixed these things before launch. Visuals and performance, score 6 out of 20.
Hey, what you saying about me, fool?
What's up, man?
Voice acting and narration have always been strong elements of the GTA series. You'll find actors such as Samuel Jackson, Ray Liotta, and many lesser known but equally good voice actors present. They do an excellent job to bring these characters to life alongside an excellent soundtrack. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the songs that were available in the original trilogy are missing. This is likely due to the terms of use and license expiring prior to the release. Although, if I'm honest, Rockstar has enough funds to pay for them, but perhaps there's some issue I don't know about that was stopping them. It was nice to see many of my favourites though remain, although you will notice that they repeat more often because there are fewer tracks in the playlists. Some of the sample quality is particularly low, especially on some of the voices when in mission, but it is another area that feels slightly downgraded, and audio scores 14 out of 20. The game retails in the eShop for £49.99, $59.99 or €59.99 and requires a download of 20 gigabytes. Physical version is going to be available on December the 7th and will require some of the content to also be downloaded, although we still don't know the specifics on the games available on the cartridge. Finally, we have GTA on a Nintendo console, and it only took 20 years, but at least there is some quality of life improvement, and you can sink hundreds of hours into it if you so choose. There's 3 of Rockstar's best loved classics here, and yes, we could argue back and forward about just how much of a remaster this is or isn't. The games underneath can still provide many hours of fun. That said, they lack the polish you'd expect, and while these issues aren't exclusive to the Nintendo Switch versions, it certainly fares the worst on Nintendo's hybrid console. Personally, if they'd released these games individually on the eShop for £9.99, even in the state they're currently in, it would have gone down a bit better. We here at Switch Up strongly suggest you wait for a massive patch to fix at least the worst of the issues, or for it to go on sale. And of course, we'll be revisiting it as soon as a patch drops and giving you all the information. As it stands though, value scores 5 out of 20.
Get yourself.
In conclusion then, I am very happy that this trilogy has made its way onto the Nintendo Switch. Each game has a lot of missions, collectibles and things to carry out at your leisure. The biggest letdown obviously is the state the games are in. In my day, Rockstar was synonymous with a well-crafted and high-standard gaming experience. Conversely, this feels like a rushed cash grab which devalues the trilogy as it stands, and probably, in fairness, is a result of them not giving Grove Street Games the amount of time and potentially funding they needed to simultaneously release across every platform. In its current state, it gets a Switch Up score of 51%. I'm not annoyed, I'm just disappointed. Thanks to all of you that have watched the channel. Hopefully you can see we have worked our butts off over the last week to try and make sure we get as fair a balanced review as possible. To those people in the comments who will be saying, I'm really enjoying them, yes, they're great games, but Rockstar need to do much more. Thanks to our patrons who support us each and every month, and to all of you who enjoy it. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers guys, see ya!
Hey, whoa. No need to go all long range on my ass.